Let me try to text Vincent. Let me see. Maybe Vincent had some problem in connecting. Let's see. Okay. Let me see if you can. Okay, I think we can wait another 2 minutes and see if Vincent is able to connect. Are you actually being able to go to the university or not at all these days? Jonathan?
I am if it's for research purposes, then it's allowed. All my teaching assignments are online. As students are only allowed on campus for practica, for the experimental teachings, but all the theoretical courses are strictly online.
I see. And in Yucatan, Alejandro?
No, we are doing all our activities online. We are not going to the university at all.
I see. Okay. 1 second. Let's wait for another minute and then we will, Vincent will be able to step in anyway, anytime. Okay. Okay, I believe we can start. It's 4 to 3 p.m. and we don't want to lose any time for the questions and explanations and introduction and presentations from your side. So, hello everybody. I know we have a good audience today with us, and welcome to workshop number 2, titled Science, Engineering and Technology. My name is Livia Malcangio, and I'm an Italian journalist and a human rights activist who has worked for the Permanent Secretariat of the World Summit of Nobel Peace Laureates as the Director of Institutional Relations for more than 20 years. And as an educator, I also had a project in developing, writing, and printing an educational book called Being Nobel. It's a book that we distribute to all of the students gathering to the summits in order to prepare them to meet and go to the workshops with the Nobel Peace Prize winners attending our summits. So today we have the possibility to hear 2 or 3 young leader researchers, one from Mexico, one from Belgium, who have applied their skills in several projects. So why do we speak about leadership in this specific field, which is science, engineering, and technology? Because it is proven that through research in these fields, the improvement of sustainable development and human rights is guaranteed. And because through research, we can find different methods to detect, for example, studies on the pandemic of this year, for example, and because doctoral research can find solutions to enhance global progress on key issues. Oh, here you go. Hello, Vincent. Welcome with us. So before giving the floor to our 3 panelists, I would like to inform you that after their presentations, you will be able to click on the question and answers icon and ask questions to our speakers. Otherwise, you will be able to do it later on by email, and I'll give you our email. So now let me introduce you to our 3 speakers of this workshop. We have Jonas Heirigers. He is a bachelor's and master's in industrial sciences, chemistry, from Artesis University College. He has a PhD in engineering from Vrije University in Brussels, but it's the University of Antwerp. And he was a PhD researcher at the Vrije University Brussels Department of Chemical Engineering in Belgium. And he's currently a postdoctoral researcher at the University of Antwerp in the research group for applied electrochemistry and catalysis in Belgium. We also have Vincent Bellings. He is a postdoctoral researcher in the field of human rights, law, and development at the University of Antwerp Law School. His research interests are situated at the intersection of environmental law, sustainable development, and human rights. We also have Alejandro Pino, who is currently a mechatronics engineering student at Anuak Mayab University in Yucatan, Mexico. And he is interested in pursuing a master's degree in automation to be more prepared to face the new engineering challenges of his generation. So now I would like to give the floor to Jonas to introduce himself and maybe tell us more about himself. And you have from 5 to 7 minutes. Here you go.
Thank you. I hope you can see the slides I am sharing. So thank you for the kind introduction, and I will talk to you today about my experiences as a researcher regarding the work we are doing with the climate problem and how technology here can help. So if we're talking today about youth leadership and about science, engineering, and technology, I think this picture captures it nicely as a whole. I think young people nowadays are really coming on the streets with their global protest, trying to get society well aware of the climate problem. And before I go a little bit deeper into this, maybe a few first words about who I am. As you already explained, Livia, I'm a chemical engineer. At trained at the University College Artesius, or nowadays called University of Antwerp. And since 2016, I'm graduated as a PhD at the University of Brussels. And since then, I'm a postdoctoral researcher at the University of Antwerp, where I, next to guide PhD students, I'm also a lecturer where I teach some courses to young engineering students, trying to get them ready for the future. So if we're talking about the CO2 problem, I don't think I have to go too deep into that. I think we are all aware of the climate problems we as a society are facing. But if we're looking into the sectors that have massive contributions to this CO2 problem, then I think the industry is an important one. And there, as a chemical engineer, we are trying to look, in our research group, are trying to look for green solutions, the green chemistry, trying to convert existing processes to a more sustainable one. And I'm not going to go today too much into the technical side, but what we are doing is trying to see CO2 not as a problem, but as a resource. We're trying to convert CO2 back into chemical building blocks that we can use to make products, to make materials that everybody uses in their daily life, instead of emitting CO2 into the atmosphere. And of course, as a researcher, there are a lot of different things we have to optimize to make more efficient. For instance, one example, the catalyst, making new catalysts, better catalysts, so that the process as a whole is more green and more sustainable. And these are some images just to give an impression what we are doing in the lab, our PhD students, our young engineers are doing. They're really making new processes, new reactors, trying to convert this CO2 molecule into new building blocks, new products, high value products that can be used instead of emitting it into the atmosphere. And if we're thinking a bit larger about research, then in my opinion, there is one thing very important, and I think that's collaboration. Nowadays, research is no longer a single item. You can't do it on your own. You have to do it in a team, and everybody does his part. And by bringing all these new insights together, we can see, for instance, the elephant in the room, can see the whole problem and find new innovative solutions for it. And as that, we have a team of young researchers I help guiding on a daily basis in their research, trying to come up with new solutions, with new technologies, for instance, for this climate problem. The other thing I wanted to highlight today is not only what we're doing nowadays, but also how to solve problems in the future, because we will not only have to come up with solutions today, but also in the future, in the next years, in the next decade. So I think it's very important that we can get new engineers, new scientists enrolled into looking into developing new technology. And for that, there are some initiatives from our university in which I try to help. And one of them is like the Children's University, where we really invite young people below the age of 12 to come on campus, to come on our university and to do experiments, to get acquainted with technology, to really trigger their mind so that in the future they hopefully go for a career in science or in engineering, in technology. Another example we are doing is called Studio STEM, and STEM stands for Science, Technology, Engineering, and Mathematics. So it's on a bit higher level, where we invite young adolescents, so people that are at the end of their high school and at the brink of going to the university, again, come to our campus to do experiments, to get involved into technology and to learn how technology can really influence their personal life and the life of their family and friends. And in that way, trying to get them excited about science and technology in the hope that they will pursue a career in these fields. And then my time is almost up. A last example I wanted to show you what the university mostly is doing is trying to really set this collaboration in motion. So trying to give our young students the opportunity to collaborate on an international level, and for that they have the Young Universities for the Future of Europe. It's called UFE platform, of which I have a small movie. I hope you can hear the sound. If not, you can also read the text. Imagine new kinds of So it's really a platform where we try to get our students to collaborate with international students across Europe. And so I think to conclude that this collaboration, and also for the CO2 problem, is very important. We have to get all the different stakeholders working together, both the scientists, the industry, the government, the funding, all together to tackle this problem. And with that, I would like to conclude my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Jonas. Very, very interesting, this Erasmus Plus and this idea. Very interesting. Thank you very much. Now we have Vincent. Vincent, you go ahead.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'll try to share my screen as well.
Here you go. Yeah, we can see it.
Okay, there we go. Can you see my screen?
Yeah.
Good afternoon. Welcome everyone to this corner of cyberspace as well. As a lawyer, I'm not going to talk too much about science, technology, or engineering, but about human rights and about the role of public participation in energy transition. Now, before I go into this, I would like to share like two images that have been a big influence on my thinking. You see these 12 graphs, they represent the changing human enterprise from 1750 until 2000, so until 20 years ago. And you see the growth, population growth, GDP growth, water use, urban population growing, paper consumption, the amount of McDonald's restaurants, tourism, etc. Going up there. And then the second graph, which is the mirror view of this increasing consumption, is the response of the biophysical Earth system to the accelerating human enterprise. And here you see, of course, carbon emissions going up, nitrate emissions, methane emissions, increasing flood, deforestation, and the decrease of global biodiversity. And so this is a very clear image of what we've been going through in the last decades and even centuries. Now, if we talk about the role of public participation in energy transition, which is one of the main topics I've been working on in the last years, it can be taken down in three aspects. public participation is one. What is transition and sustainability transition? And 3, what is energy transition? And I'll go through all 3 of them one by one. So the first one is what is transition, and the previous graphs indicated the problem that you all are aware of. But what is sustainability transition? What you see here on the graph are countries plotted on a horizontal axis, and that's the Human Development Index, which you see the line. The vertical axis is very high development. And on the vertical axis, you have our ecological footprint. And the right bottom corner represents the good life, a high development standard, and within environmental limits. And you will also notice that no country is in there. The 2 graphs I showed you previously show the red arrow, the development of the red arrow. And the idea is that these that are at the right side of the vertical axis make this movement down to lower ecological footprint. Now, if everyone is going to try to do that, and all the countries are going to try to do that, you won't have any green bottom right square anymore. And so the goal is to make different moves, and you see the green arrows here. And so this signifies that it's both like a ecological transition that is necessary, but also a social justice transition. And it's both these aspects that play a role in this. Now, if we're talking about energy transitions, that means, okay, we need to go to a low carbon, ecologically sound energy system, but we also need to go towards a social just system. All the people have a need to access energy services for transport, electricity, etc. And if we talk about, okay, we need the full energy system changing towards a new energy system, it's not only the technology that is changing from coal to solar systems or other things, but it's also the way we organize, the way we have organizations. Do we need state-funded energy enterprises, cooperatives, private-funded enterprises, the culture, all our behavior, when are we consuming, how are we consuming, what are the circumstances about that, how we finance the energy system, etc. So there's a lot of different aspects that change. And the blue arrow in the middle means that there is a lot of public decision making being done to go from the one system towards the other system at government level. And this is both long-term public decisions, but also short-term public decisions. Are we going to build this power plant or not? Who are we going to finance, etc. So this leads us to the third aspect in this public decision-making that is happening all the time and with a lot of different decisions, long-term policy-making. Public participation comes in because it's important that it's a social transition and that everyone can participate in this. What do we mean with public participation? The most important thing is that it's every platform or mechanism where we have a two-way exchange of information and also viewpoints and values of both citizens, civil society, and at the one hand, and at the other hand, government or public decision makers. And on a deeper level, it's very important that there is also an exchange of values and viewpoints, perspectives, because we will, with climate change or ecological challenges, it's a wicked problem. And so we will never be able to solve this huge problem with just changing the technology or like miracle solutions, but we need to find a way and a cooperative way of step-by-step solving this thing together. So there it's important that there is a meeting of minds in this process in decision-making and common decision-making. Of course, public participation is entrenched in law in a lot of circumstances, in international treaties, in human rights law. Of course, there's a lot of procedures that you can use and access the law to being able to participate in public decision making. And then it's also important to mention that there is like weak public participation, strong public participation. The weak one, often authorities or important players in energy systems or in society as a whole, they decide things and then they organize a bit of public participation to make it more look representative of to use the public. So tools for action, when we look at the formal and legal side of public participation, you can get access to information, which is very important to take action. The right to meaningfully participate in public decision making, both in giving out licenses, in long-term policy making, and thirdly, access to justice. Now, it's a good question on how can public participation influence a complex energy system. We saw it's a very complex coming together of a lot of interests, of a lot of developments, and does it change anything? Now, I've been analyzing an energy system as a complex adaptive system with all these elements. You have the technology, the organizational structure, the financing mechanisms, culture, and you have an inflow, natural resources like coal or the resources to build solar cells and windmills. You have an input of financial resources and labor. And of course, you have the outflow of the system, the energy that comes out, but also pollution, financial benefits. And then is the question, what's the goal of the system? I've listed here a couple of goals: energy for all citizens, profit maximization for the profit sector, replenishing state budgets. And that goal will define the way we distribute the benefits and pollution, but also the information flows. And at every of these points, you can, there is law and regulation present, and so you can try to influence these law and regulations through public participation. I'm almost going to conclude, but I really would like to show you this piece of work. It's Leverage Points to Intervene in a System, written by Donella Meadows, who is also famous from the Club of Rome report on climate change. And she listed 12 different aspects or leverage points where to change the system. And the deeper the leverage points go, you can influence changing the system. And public participation and different procedures are linked with these leverage points. So to conclude, and to every one of you, and disregarding whether you're working on anti-racism or health or mental health, poverty or ecological challenges, it's always important to analyze your situation or the thing you want to work on as a complex adaptive system with all these different aspects in it. It's important to search your viable leverage points to try to change the system towards that sustainability direction. And then also seek your public participation options, whether it's formal or non-formal, and the legal or the non-legal options. And then, of course, you can be part of that move towards sustainability. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Vincent. Thank you very much. I have already in mind a question that I will ask you later, but before, I would like to leave the floor to Alejandro. Hold on, you have to unmute.
Okay, I don't know if you're seeing my screen right now.
Yes, we can see it.
Okay, thank you. It's nice to meet you, Livia, Vincent, Jonas. Okay, hello, welcome to everyone. My name is Alejandro Dominic Thomas Pinot. I'm from Anáhuac Mayap University in Mérida, Yucatan, Mexico, and I'm going to present an investigation project that we developed here in the university named the design of a piezoelectric microcantilever sensor for SARS-CoV-2 detection. I'm sorry if I get a little too technical. I am going to try to explain it the simplest way I can. But first, I'm going to talk a little bit of myself. I was born in Tapachula, Chiapas, and I live and study in Mérida, Yucatan. I am a mechatronics engineering student in Anáhuac Mayab University. I love playing sports, watching movies. I love video games, and of course, I love engineering. I play basketball in the university with the team of the university, and actually, I am part of the flag football team. Here I show some pictures of some sports events that I participated in, and the locations of my hometown and the city that I actually live. Here is a picture of the university, and down here is the engineering school. Okay, so to have a good understanding of this project, we first need to talk about finite element analysis. It is a computerized method for predicting the response of multiphysics phenomena that is hard to evaluate in a simple analytical form. It works by dividing an object into a large number of elements, and each one will become a numerical solution. With a set of equations that describe the physics problem and with the use of numerical methods, it can help to predict the behavior of the element. In the figures are shown some examples of the results of some finite element analysis. Another important topic to understand in this project is piezoelectricity. That is an electromechanical effect that results from a linear coupling between mechanical stress and an electric field. When mechanical stress is applied to a piezoelectric material, it generates an electric charge that is proportional to said stress. This is known as the direct piezoelectric effect. As it is shown in the picture, in the bottom right part, a lighter is an example of the use of a piezoelectric material because it generates a spark when you apply a friction in it. Okay, so this project was developed in March when here in Mexico, the pandemic was just starting and there were few COVID-19 tests known. At that time, there was a need for fast and reliable tests. As a part of a class, we were learning how microelectromechanical systems, or MEMS, work, and we learned of the piezoelectric microcantilever sensor that is used in some tests to detect biological molecules. And with my classmates and our teacher, we came with the idea of designing one for coronavirus detection. We knew that to solve problems like the health emergency we're living nowadays, new technologies must be developed, in this case, to control the pandemic. So the objective that we established was the design and simulation of a piezoelectric microcantilever for detection of the SARS-CoV-2 virus. After we did our research, we chose the specific antibody test, and the immunoglobulin chosen was the IgG because it remains more time in the body, and to us, this means a larger window for detection. For the simulations, the IgG would be immobilized in the pit of the cantilever, occupying the 100%, 50%, and 25% of the pit surface. We use ANSYS software, that is an engineering simulation and design software, to make the finite element analysis. In the figure is shown the cantilever beam that is fixed at one end and free at the other. The sensor is made with a polysilicon layer as a substrate. The second layer is made of silicon dioxide with a pit where the IgG will be immobilized. At the fixed end, on the top of the cantilever, a piezoelectric material PCT5A is located. To make the finite element analysis, we use the piezo and MEMS extension of ANSYS for modeling the piezoelectric capabilities of the cantilever. We modeled the weight of the IgG as a force that was applied in the area of the pit. In this figure, in the bottom right part, the mesh that was applied is shown. This is how the sensor was divided for its analysis. For the results, we defined the directional deformation, the force reaction, and the voltage obtained. In the figures are shown the results that we obtained in the analysis. The simulation of the displacement of the cantilever can be seen. And the graphic shows the deformation of the beam for every one of the cases proposed. With the data obtained, we found that there is a direct correlation between the number of antibodies on the pit and the voltage generated, as it can be seen in the table. So we concluded that with this sensor, the higher the voltage difference, the greater the probability of carrying or having had the virus. And to finish my presentation, I would like to thank the Permanent Secretariat of the World Summit of Nobel Peace Laureates and the World Academy of Art and Science for giving us the opportunity to show to the world the projects that we are developing in every part of the world. I would also like to thank Ms. Marisola Chach, Director of Internationalization of Anáhuac Mayab, for all the attention and the opportunity that she gave me. To Dr. Aaron Rivas for guiding us in the development of the project, and to Dr. Andres Oliva for helping and guiding me to prepare for this presentation. And finally, to my classmates and friends, Ricardo Alaves, Alan Bayolo, Emmanuel Bolaños, Mari Carmen Creus, and Eudaldo León, because this project was a team effort. And I would like to finish with this phrase. With courage and determination, all goals can be achieved, because I truly believe that. Thank you. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Leandro. It was very exhaustive, very complicated to understand the process with which you reached this this conclusion of your project. But it's definitely important to try to solve important things going on in the world, such as COVID-19. So congratulations. And of course, you showed that, especially in the research, it's always important to work on a team and to share as much as you can information in order to reach the goal. We are also here today in this very special Young Leadership Day in order to try to create and find a way to create a global platform for young leaders. And you guys all work in the field of technology, engineering, science. So people like you are very, very useful for example, young activists in order to connect. There was the speaker at the plenary session saying that what they didn't have in the 60s was what we have today, which is interconnectivity. You were born with interconnectivity. For you is taken for granted, but for people like him studying at in San Francisco, at Berkeley, it was very difficult to get connected with other universities, with other research centers. So your work is very important. And now I have a question for Jonas. And I would like to ask you, what is your experience in helping and guiding young people in the field of science, engineering, and technology? And how can we create a global platform for young leaders from where to speak out to the people in power, for example?
Well, regarding your first question, the experience is great. I think having to work with young people is an opportunity that especially if you're talking about research, it's important that you get new insights, and once you're a while doing a specific type of research, you can get some kind of tunnel vision. And then having young people coming in and having it maybe a look from a different angle gives valuable insights that you as yourself would not immediately come up with. So I think that's very interesting. And yeah, of course, it keeps you young. Working with young people allows to keep the mind fresh. So I think that's a big benefit to work with young people. Yeah, trying to regarding your second question, trying to get young leadership, giving them a voice, to say it like that, to politicians. That's of course much more difficult. I think initiatives like this one today really helps in that, to give young people a voice. You now see, of course, if I go back to these climate problems, you see the climate protesters by the young people, the really below the age of 18, especially. It was at least the case in Belgium, and I think in other countries in Europe as well. They really came to street, and they really claimed their position in society. They claimed their own voice. So in that sense, but that's really from the young people themselves. I think from a government point of view, from a society point of view, I think we need initiatives like this, like the Erasmus as well, and from the European Union, for instance, trying to get platforms where these people can speak. I think that's important.
Thank you very much. I now have a question for Vincent from Andres in our Q&A chat, and he's asking, Vincent, how complicated or complex would be to incorporate the public opinion for sharp and important decisions when people is not often well prepared or are not experts on specific topics and sometimes are more influenced by political views?
Okay, thank you very much for this question. It's a very important question. I think very complex problems can be always dealt with, also with public participation. But of course, you have to take in mind that for every type of decision, whether it's a long-term policy plan over 10 years or 20 years, or whether it's a one-off decision on allowing this or that, or like building a new infrastructure. For every type of decision, you have to use different types of public participation. So for example, we've seen in France on the huge climate issue, and they were raising taxes, I think diesel taxes or fuel taxes. And then the whole Gilets jaunes, the yellow jersey protests came up because it was seen as a social injustice. And then the reaction on that was to organize a citizen parliament on climate change, to work out in different sectors and different fields proposals for the parliament, but also both short-term and long-term policy decision proposals. And you see here in that process, and that's of course a big public participation event, such as citizen parliament, but experts were invited, pros, cons were invited. And so all the people that participated who had different views, so it was a representative stake of the society, both low income, high income, different cultures, different ages, different gender, different regions were represented, urban, non-urban. They all had different views and experiences, and different values that are super important to take away in the proposals you make. Even not everyone is an expert on technology, but everyone is an expert in terms of their own experience with regard to the topic or the decision to be made. So I think it can be overcome, and it's especially important to include different views and perspectives in order to find a solution. Otherwise, we will always leave some people behind. And if it's about leaving no one behind, that's important. Thank you.
Okay, great. We have 2 questions for you, Alejandro, which can be merged. There is Ludo, who's asking if your test is already commercial, and we have Uriel asking if it's just a paper for the moment or a document, and if there are some documents to learn more about your project.
Okay, it is not commercial. It is just an. We wanted to publish it as a paper, but we didn't get to that point. We have the document, but we didn't publish it. If you want, I can give you my email, and maybe I don't know who asked the question of the document, but I can send them if they want the information. There are all the references that we use it, but it's just a project that we're developing here. We didn't publish it.
Okay, so you can share your email,
yeah,
and they can maybe get more information about the project.
In the chat, I'm going to write it.
Thanks. We also have Ramesh, who's asking, and maybe we can ask Jonas if you would like to reply. This is a very interesting question. Has technology accelerated violence or provided better avenues for peace?
So it's a good question. And not an easy one, I think. My personal opinion, because I'm not an expert in this field, I would say both. I think technology can be a wonderful thing and can solve certain problems and bring peace. But it's, for instance, like what you now see with the batteries. So now electrical vehicles is becoming more and more important. But if you look to the technology, you need specific raw resources for such batteries to make them. And you now see already countries positioning themselves, trying to claim these raw resources throughout the world, in third world countries, and not always maybe under the right conditions. So it can also create imbalance in the world, I think. So I think it's what I said in the beginning. I think it can do both.
You're right. And what about Vincent, from a law perspective? What would you say, and what would you reply to the same question? How can we use technology, as I said before, in order to make sure that young leaders could speak out and be heard from the power? How can it be used in the proper way?
Thank you for this question. It's a very ethical question, and I think there's two sides of it. First, you have to see which technology it is and whether like cooperation or violence is built in. I think in certain algorithm, I'm not an expert, but in certain algorithm systems, social media, for example, there are some tendencies built in, and then you can see whether these tendencies provide a good thing for the global community or a bad thing. And there is discussion, for example, about Facebook, which is the technology, whether that's inciting a lot of violence and separation among society or not. The second aspect is about the governance of technology, and what are we doing with the with the technology. Drones can be very useful and be very violent, for example, and then you have to look at the organizations and day-to-day decision-making that are using the technology and how that is organized. And you can organize that in a cooperative with a lot of transparency and in a democratic way, or you can allow that to be organized in a very privatized way. So coming back to the Facebook example, for example, we could perfectly decide that we would like to have a open, transparent and democratic governance of Facebook instead of it being a private company. And then it's that decision. And so also there you could then provide for youth a way to provide their opinion in the governance of technology. Thank you.
I think it also has to do with education. For example, we have a lot of influencers, young influencers through Instagram and Facebook. If there was someone telling them, you have the chance to influence so many people about so many important topics, but sometimes we see these influencers just concentrated on fashion or on posting pictures of their lives. They really I think they don't know, they have no idea of how much power they have in order to change the world. So I think an education in how to use these social medias as global platforms for young leaders should also be developed. I still don't know how, but there are engineers, young engineers with new projects that should also take care of it. I have a question for you, Alejandro. You have developed this project in times of emergencies, and how much do you consider that young people should get involved in finding solutions, such as your team at the university?
Well, I have always think that the age doesn't really matter if you feel that you are prepared and you think that the work that you are doing can be helpful, or the things that you know can be helpful to, in this case, a global problem, but it can be a simple problem like in your hometown or everywhere. And if you think that you can provide with your work or with your ideas solutions, I think you should get involved. I think that the young people like us, we came with different point of views of the problems, and we came with different ideas that might help to get solutions for the problems that are with a wider vision. That is not sometimes the solutions are for a specific section, and with different point of views, the solutions can be wider.
Yes, that's really true. And now I have a question for Jonas. Jonas, what would you advise to young people to try to pursue the career that you've been pursuing? Now you are even a post PhD. This career in science, engineering, and technology, how can it be applied? How this career can be applied in fields that interest us today as young leaders, for example, in peace education, or in fields that would support young leaders today?
Well, I think my first advice would be, or the first step, go and study something that has to do in this field. Go for an engineering study, go for a science study, and really focus on that. I think that's step one and the most important step. Then I think next step is we have this, as was said in the general session, we have this interconnectivity. Try to do maybe some internships, try to go abroad, try to expand your network. And I think very important also in that is then try to find also a good promoter, someone that can really help you, that you can work well with together. I think there are important steps that you can take to pursue a career in science, for instance.
Mm-hmm. I see. And you, Vincent, we understood that what you are more concentrated in is international law. Am I right? You're more interested in that part of your studies. What brought you there? What made you feel that that was your field when you finished high school?
Thank you for that question. It's a good question. I have to go back a long time.
Not much.
Well, I think out of curiosity, I've always been, also as a child already, and in my secondary school, I've been eager to to learn new cultures and to travel. And then that's one of the reasons I went studying law, because previously I would go for civil engineering, and I changed last minute because I had more opportunities to travel while studying. And so during my studies, I went to Congo for a couple of months in South Africa. I studied 1 year in South Africa. Sorry?
What did you do in Congo? What was the project or the
it was just a student exchange without working on a project. And then I did an internship in India as well on public interest litigation with regard to mining pollution. And so from the one experience in the other, I started to learn more and getting more and more interested in climate change and the environmental challenges. And so in my law degree, I went studying international environmental law and also did my PhD on that later on.
So yes, you're right. You said that curiosity is the trigger that takes you there, takes you to pursue your interest and eventually your work. Sometimes they say that maybe it's not us that find a job, but it's the job that finds us. But definitely through curiosity, we create our own path. So it's very good to hear that you had
Maybe if I can add one thing, I must say I've been extremely privileged as well in being able to do all these things. I've been born in a pretty rich country. Male.
You were born in which city?
Upbringing.
You were born in which city?
I was born in Antwerp in Belgium.
As well.
And so I had a lot of opportunities that came my way. And I tried to make the best of it, but I have to acknowledge that not everyone is getting the same opportunities, of course.
You're right. I think more than being a coming from a wealthy family is more what the university is offering you, because there are so many student exchange projects around the world that give you a grant so that anybody democratically can have the same experience. I think that your university was very good in giving these opportunities. Was that university that created these exchanges? You see, for example, I'm from Rome, the capital of Italy, and at my times at university, the best exchange I could do was with Paris and London. I mean, great cities, great experiences, but nothing to do with Congo or India or experiences that you have. Of course, I'm older, and maybe before it was harder. I have to say that I don't have so many friends that had the opportunity that you had in order to explore completely different cultures in different continents. But I was lucky enough to have an international family, relatives in Colombia, in India as well, so that I could travel that way from a family viewpoint. But definitely what a university offers is so important for the studies and to develop your curiosity and take the right path. That's obvious. And Alejandro, what about your university? You showed us your university on the screen, and it looks amazing. At the first glance, it looks like an airport. It is so big, but I think that you also come from a very good university, which is also a partner of our Leading by Example project. So
yes, sorry.
Yes, go ahead.
Oh, the Anáhuac is yeah, it's a big university. I love that it gives you all the opportunities if you want here in Mexico to move in different cities where there are other Anahuac universities. And also it have a lot of connections with international connections with other countries. I didn't have the opportunity of going to another country, but I have a friend of mine that went to Spain, and she spent a semester in there. And I know some people that go to Chile. And yes, it is, as you mentioned, it is very important that the university gives you these opportunities and these, I would say, facilities, so you can have this connection with other countries, with other cultures, and of course the things that you learn that are not only academic are much better for you as person and as a professional.
That's right. We have in our Q&A chat another question for Vincent, which just arrived, and it goes, have we reached a point where our oceans are facing an existential threat? If so, what's the way out? Vincent.
Thank you very much for this question. It's a very serious question. Have we reached a point where our oceans are facing an existential threat? Yes, I think they're absolutely already for a long time under an existential threat. I'm not a climatologist or an expert, but following and reading the science, and if you see at IPCC or the International Panel on Biodiversity, a lot of scientists already argue that most tipping points have been passed already. So if the currents of the oceans start changing because of melting ice water, etc., which is of course very serious and sad realization that's too late already to, even if we would stop emitting CO2 and absorbing a lot and starting to change a lot, we wouldn't be able to do anything about it anymore. Although I think regeneration is the way out. We want being able to return the ecosystem back to what it was, but we can't try to build our systems, production systems, consumption systems, and the way we organize our society on the basis of regeneration and try to build new spheres of biodiversity and ecological systems in the hope that we can still live in them. Yeah, so that's it's not really a way out, but it's another way to deal with it. Like they say in climate change, you have mitigation and adaptation. I think for a large part will be down to the adaptation. Yeah.
Thank you. And Jonas, what we didn't ask you, what brought you to be curious about what you've been studying in all of your academic career? Why did you pick such a specific field?
I have to go way back when I think I was a child. I'm always fascinated about how things work. So understanding how something works, it was really triggering my mind, and I wanted to know more about it. I even know that from an uncle. I once got this book about how all different technologies, how an engine works, for instance, or how a plane can fly. These questions, it was really triggering for me and drove me into education that was with a focus on science. So it was from a curiosity on, and I think that's important.
Curiosity is the basis, definitely. I studied all my life languages. I'm a journalist, but also a professional interpreter and translator. And I was so curious about speaking to everybody in the world that I kept adding languages. I can speak 5 languages, including Spanish, Alejandro, and German, which is hard. But really, what triggered me was curiosity for other cultures, and I wanted to be able to speak the language of the person I wanted to talk to. So,
and I think it's an important one. The curiosity. I think it's a main driver for your motivation. That if you're interested in something and you want to know more about it, I think it's the best motivator to
but it always needs other ingredients. Like you have to, like in engineering, you have to apply it to something specific in order to reach an objective. Otherwise,
that's the beauty of it. Of course, if you can successfully apply a technology to a problem, then you can maybe solve the problem. So again, I think it's an important motivator. But yeah, I don't have to convince myself of an engineering study, of course, because I didn't.
Yes, I mean, in your subject of study, it wouldn't be possible not to be curious, right?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
I mean,
yeah,
I don't
definitely.
think you have colleagues or that are not curious.
No. Yeah, you're absolutely right.
When you started your presentation, you were showing us the project.
Mm-hmm.
You showed Erasmus Plus.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a team project that you're bringing forward, or?
Yes, it's a project of the university. It's not my personal project, of course. It's a collaboration, this UVA collaboration with 10 universities, and that's in sense it knocks down all the obstacles for students to go abroad. If you, in a traditional sense, for instance, want to use the European Erasmus program to go to another university to study, for instance, 6 months at that university, there are always these bilateral agreements that are needed, and with this platform, they can more easily, without these administrative hurdles, go abroad. I think it's a wonderful example of collaboration, and that's why I included it.
And when was the exact time that it started?
This year.
Like
just before the summer. Yeah. And of course, due to COVID.
And because of the pandemic, because of the problem that people had that could not travel anymore.
Yeah, of course. So it's not on its, how do you say it, on full strength yet. They made it also like this, an online event that you can follow online courses and can interact and do projects with other students from other universities. But unfortunately, yes, due to COVID and due to the national regulations of all countries.
And these 10 universities you show that are from Europe.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Yeah. It's a very interesting project, and I'm sure that we will be interested in knowing more about it. So at the plenary session, the focus was really based on how to create a platform for young people like you who want to speak out and be in contact with local powers, governments, without being influenced. So like NGOs, for example. How can technology, engineering, science support this, if we're not talking about the usual social media that we all know? How can it be used? I'm thinking, of course, about softwares. I'm thinking about new app. So who would like to reply to this question? You can raise your hand. Okay, Vincent.
Yeah, I think one thing popped up immediately with this question. I think the collaborative identity of it would be very important, meaning that you could organize a lot open source. Now a lot of scientific development is either shielded off for patents, and I think there could be a lot of improvement on that level with making it more open source and more democratically accessible for a lot more people to work with scientific development and with technologies. And it makes it also a lot more easy to govern it and make sure that it's used for the public benefit, not for private interests.
Good. Yes. Yeah, I was thinking of how to explain in a few words the word leadership. It's not easy, and maybe in every different field it has a different meaning. We have leadership in the political world. We have leadership in the NGOs and in the activism. Do we also have leadership in your field, in science, how it is applied? Jonas, how would you define leadership in the field of research?
Well, you always, of course, have the traditional sense of leadership in steering and in guiding the researcher, in managing, in providing the necessary structures. But I also think it's important that you give leadership to researchers so that they reach their maximum potential, that they are triggered, that they what I said, can reach maximum potential, that they how should I put it in words?
Express themselves.
Yeah, indeed. That that the right questions are asked to them, so that they learn and that they can evolve as a researcher.
Mm-hmm. And I think that all of us, sometime in our life, in our academic life, but also in our professional life, maybe in the future, we all have a leader, someone who has supported us in our projects. Do you have today a leader in your team that is really teaching you how to keep on? And is it usually a professor, or it can be a colleague? Jonas?
No, so in my case, it's a professor. It's the head of the research unit that really even guides me as well, and helps me in my research, in getting the necessary funding, in asking the right research questions. Are you on track? Are you looking to the right things? Are you not forgetting something? But that's indeed the professor that is doing that.
Also, in your case, Alejandro, do you have a leader in your area that is really stimulating your curiosity and your commitment in your research, or it's your team as a whole?
I believe there are like two leaders in using the example of the project that we developed, because of course our teacher, he was guiding us, and he was and I don't want to say telling us what to do, but it's not that way, but like giving the example of how we must work, because doing an investigation with a team that is of 6 persons is not that easy to get truly organized, because there are different ideas, there are different points of views, and you have to like join all of them and get one final idea, and all of the team have to be like in the same path, so the result can be like logical, because if you don't, you're reading what everyone writes, there's a paragraph that says one thing and there's another complete point of view in the next one. So the teacher is like that kind of leader. But of course in the team, I would say like there's a colleague that also is how do you say it? Preoccupied. Worried. Thank you. It's worried about another problems, that maybe one of us is not working the way that he can, or the way that his abilities can, because we know the potential that we have, but maybe is having a personal problem or another problem, and that are things that maybe the teacher didn't see or can't see, because the confidence is not the same that we as friends, and we are pushing us like, hey, come on, you have to concentrate, what's your problem, how can we help you? And I believe it's these two different type of leaders. That is one that is guiding us in a professional way, and the other one that is more personal, that is looking for that we are working in a good way and we are okay with it and we are happy with our work, but because of course we have to love what we are doing.
No, of course the environment always has to be pleasant and nice, so that part is very important as well. And we've also seen that you are doing a lot of sport and that also helps, especially when you have to do a lot of research in a closed place. And Vincent, what about you? You're still having a good leader in your studies, because you've been doing a lot of studies. I've seen your curriculum, and are you still having someone who is keeping you up with the curiosity and guiding you?
Well, I actually agree with Alejandro that there's different types of leaderships, and I like to see it as in all the teams or organizations, and also at university, but also in NGOs and organizations that have been active. I think leadership is always distributed. Everyone has a different role and is taking up different responsibility and can take up leadership in that role. So it's not always in terms of hierarchy, someone that guides, but I think everyone is partly guiding, partly supporting others or different aspects on the project you're working on, whether it's a research project or a campaign or setting up a business. I think leadership is always distributed, and you have different types of leadership. And that's important that people see that it's not always the person that is formally in charge or the leader as it's often considered in society, but that leadership is a shared responsibility.
Yes, you're right. And
I always feel, I feel that in my experience also at university, that it's most projects are team efforts and team responsibilities.
Yes, and it's something that one learns already in high school, but even before, when you have good teachers who are showing you how important it is to work with a team as opposed of having the typical classical hierarchy that used to be in the schools some time ago. So what is in my mind is that you've been lucky, as also Gary Jacobs said at the opening, for being in this new era where information is at hands and technology can be explored at 360 degrees. When I was studying in high school, there weren't emails, can you imagine? And we all knew telephone numbers of our friends by heart. Now I don't even know the number of my son. So we just had to cope with what we had. But you have tremendous opportunities to share informations, studies, papers with other researchers around the world. So I've seen from your curriculums, and Alejandro, you're still finishing your studies at university, that show me that you want to keep on being in the research career, or for example, Jonas, you have even won awards. I've seen that you have been really concentrating in your studies in an incredible way. How old are you today?
I'm 31.
31. So do you want to keep going with the field of research, or you want to become a leader, for example, in which field?
Well, if I have the opportunity, I would like to pursue a career in research. That's my ambition. And I think inevitably it will be it's a team effort, research. So part of it will be giving leadership to young researchers. So that you build a team in a sense that works on a specific topic. And in my case, as I said, I'm from training a chemical engineer. So it will be in that area, and the field I'm working now more specifically than even electrochemistry. So it will be in that field, in this chemical engineering world that I would like to.
So a leader to stimulate new students and to train them in your field.
Yeah, and for that, I think, for instance, what I'm doing, I give a few courses, and during the times that you're together with your students, it's a wonderful opportunity to then also trigger them to see who's here interested in research and in research, and can we maybe collaborate together, and I think that's very important.
Yes, that's what you said before, that to get new valuable insights from young students, it's also important for you to go on with your research.
Definitely, yeah, absolutely.
And Vincent, what about you? Where do we see you in 5 years' time as a leader?
That's a good question. Probably no one knows. But I hope I can combine some sort of role in the academic world with action in society, and combine these two and connect these two worlds as well. Because I've been.
When you say action in society, you mean in the field of climate change or international law? Because I've seen that you are focused on several topics, but if you have to see you in in a field as an activist, where would you see you?
Yeah, I would focus on ecological challenges we face, among which climate change and biodiversity. And I think there can be a lot more connection between the academic world and society, and can work together, and the one doesn't exclude the other.
I was impressed when I visited Earth University in Costa Rica, and the way they apply technology in green projects. The way that technology can be applied to new areas in order to develop green energy. Agriculture is impressive, and of course all of that is done in order to support the climate and make the environment more sustainable, of course. So yes, that's a good way of seeing you in 5 years' time. And what about you, Alejandro?
Okay, in 5 years, that's a hard question. I hope that finishing my master's, maybe, and I would like to go to another country to study, because I think that the experience that you get and the knowledge is better if you get out of the things that you commonly know. That is for me here in Mexico. But yes, I would love to do the master's in automation, and it is very important that that the part of automation that I most love is that what I want is in the future to develop some technologies that would ease the life of the people, but also will help. We were yesterday, I think, talking with a friend that we wanted to develop these technologies that will help to save the resources that we use daily, the light, the gas, the water that you use in your house. And it's funny because I always think as automation for these big machines, and it's not always these big machines for automation. It might also be small these devices that might, and I hope would help to the people. That's what I want.
That's good. That's very good. So I guess we're almost at the end of the workshop. After that, there will be an interlude by Odino Faccia, who is a singer from Argentina. And so my last wish would be to see you in 5 years' time and see where you are. I'm very curious now, and I will write down a report on our conversation today. So thank you very much to everybody, and I hope to see you in our next meetings. And now we have the screen. This session is now over, and more to follow. This picture behind is a very nice one from the summit, with young leaders on the left that you can see from all over the world. So it's a good way to finish this workshop. And I wish you all the best in your research and in your life and in your academic life. And thank you very much. And I hope to see you soon.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye, Vincent,
Thank you.
Alejandro.
Bye.
Bye-bye, Jonas. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Hi, hello, Camilla. This is Sashni, a member of WAS admin team. Camilla, do you hear me? Or Ash Pachuri, do you hear me? Drishya,
Yeah, hello.
do you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you add Komal? Can you add Komal as well in the, I mean, as a participant?
Yes, I made him as a panelist, and also
Okay.
she is a co-host.
Okay, yeah. Great. Thank you so much.
Hi all, I'm Sashni, a member of WAS admin team. I'm here to take care of your technical needs. Actually, we are recording this meeting and also streaming in YouTube. If you need anything, please feel free to call me as WAS admin. As and when speaker join, I will promote them from attendee to panelist. Camilla, I made you as co-host. Actually, can you please unmute your mic?
Yes. Oh, sorry, I was not unmuted. Yes, absolutely. I've got everything. I think we have all of the panelists as for now. So,
Hi.
Thank you.
Hi, Camila.
Hello, Dr. Ash. How are you? Great to see you.
Hi. So good to connect with everybody.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. Anne hasn't joined now. Can you please inform to her to join this meeting? I don't see Anne. Anne.
Anna? Okay. She's here.
Anna's there, I think.
Yeah, she's here.
But
okay.
Thank you so much.
But she's not in the list of panelists yet, and Komal is also not in the list. I think they are still attendees.
Okay, then I will make them.
Hello. Hiya.
Hi, Aoife. How are you?
I'm all right, thank you.
Can anyone help me to find Anne in attendees list, because I don't find her name.
Yeah, I can see she's not in the panelist as well as the attendees. I'll just call her and let you know. But she says that she's there.
Yeah, I saw her.
Yeah, Anna.
Anna, is your camera on?
Can you? Yeah. Hi, Eamon. Hi.
Hello. Do you think you could perhaps raise your hand, as we cannot see?
Anna, can you drop and then rejoin again? I think,
Yeah, there seems to be something that's not working. Yeah. Anna. Yeah, she doesn't seem to be. Nope.
Drishya, I'm making you as co-host.
Yeah.
Once Hana join, can you please make her to promote her to a panelist list?
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Actually, this conference is broadcast live on YouTube. I send the link in chat.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Do you have any video which we can play till Anna joins? I think she's there. Just a second.
I think Anna will join and we can probably start since it's and we're already live. So
she's there. Great.
I'd like very much to take this opportunity to welcome all of you to this incredible session, which our amazing youth trainee mentor from the pop movement, an incredible young lady, Camila, will host. Camila was born in Mexico City. She's an ardent and powerful and strong young human rights advocate. And she specializes and particularly focuses her energy and interest in gender equality and climate justice. In this revolutionary era, Camila is a strong voice and fights with all her passion and conviction for the rights of women and communities in Latin America, hoping to have and strengthen their representation in the global arena. And Camila will be our amazing chair and moderator today. So I'd like to now have Camila take over. She'll talk a little bit about the session and then have us get started with some amazing young people that we have in the room here today. And so over to you, Camila. Thank you very much. And it's such a pleasure and honor. We're delighted. Warm greetings to you and to everyone else.
Thank you, Dr. Ash, for that incredible presentation. It's an honor to be here with all of you today. First of all, I will now present myself again. I am Camila Gonzalez Calistro. I am 17 years old. I am born and raised in Mexico City. My pronouns are she, her, and I will be your moderator for this session. So first of all, I want to talk to you about this first session, this workshop number 5 of the Youth Leadership Day. In this session, we will talk about climate action and activism led by youth engaged with and central to the POP or Protect Our Planet movement. The POP movement is now working in close to 70 countries around the world with 1.2+ million youth, including those from indigenous communities and the most marginalized groups. We believe in being inclusive and creating a safe and equitable space for youth to amplify their voices, to share, and to grow while being constantly inspired by knowledge. This is one such space that we are humbled and honored to have today. Here, we will talk about some of the leading initiatives embraced by the POP movement and its exemplary action led by youth. This dialogue that ensues will underscore the importance of making systemic change and promoting transformational leadership among the 1.8 billion youth of the world. Now, before we begin, I would like to mention a series of indications to avoid interruptions in this session. So please, I will ask everyone to keep their microphones off to avoid any background noise or distractions to the panelists. Also, I must remind you that all the questions that you have must go in the Q&A. All of them will be answered by the end of the session. If you have a particular question for one of our panelists, please include their name and they will be answering directly to you in the chat. So please remember to add their names, and in case it's a general question, all of them will be answered at the end of this session. Now, speakers, I know you have a lot to say, but please keep inside the time frame. We are quite limited, and I know you have a lot to say, and I wish we had more time, but we are quite limited today, so please keep your time. I repeat, all the questions have to go in the Q&A as they will be answered by the end of the session. Now, Komal will now post all of our social media handles in the chat as well at the end of the session in case you want to reach out or follow the amazing activists' work today. Now, without any further ado, now I have the honor of introducing our very first speaker, Ayman Almach. She's a 15-year-old student at the Julius Sturzberg Gymnasium in North Rhine-Westphalia in Germany. Ayman joined the POP movement in 2018 as she saw it as a great opportunity and seized it to do something good for both the environment and society. So Ayman, the floor is all yours.
Thank you, Camila, for your introduction. I will share my screen for the presentation. Let me take a minute.
I think Komal can help with the presentation. Okay. All right. Perfect.
Yeah. Hello, everyone. I'm Iman, and I'm 15 years old, and I will present our POP movement, which is based in Germany. So, let me take a minute. Why is
Please press F5 button in your keyboard.
Hey, Iman, if you're comfortable, we can ask Komal to share the screen. You just need to tell her to switch on the slides, if that is okay with you.
Yes, let's do that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Iman, you may stop sharing screen and Komal will take it over. Thank you. Thank you, Komal.
So, okay, let me start again. Thank you, Komal. Firstly, I will tell you something about our team, how much team members we are. Then I'm going to tell you at which sustainable development goals we focused on. After that, you get to know with which people we're working with and how we include our school community. And finally, you get to know something about our support in our city and our recent project. Can you switch to the slide? Thank you. We are the POP movement, which is based in Germany. And we are currently 10 students from the classes 10 to 12. from the secondary school and 10 former students and Mr. Forstöfel. And we are definitely open for new members who wants to join the POP movement. You can switch. Yes, at which sustainable goals we focused on? We focused on the goals 7 and 13 because goal 7, how the name says, we want more clean energy. And with this clean energy, we can stop a little bit the climate change. And that's why we focused on the goal 13. You can go on. So, with which people we're working on? We're working with young people. The thought behind that was that students, so young people, sensitize other young people. And even though we are students at school, we want to look beyond our end of the noses and want to do a lot of outside our school and want to make contacts. And with the contacts, we want to sensitize other people, especially young people. Yeah, and which, I'm sorry. Yes, and with the project, which is here illustrated, we want to try to connect the younger generation with the problems of climate change. And this is the point. But we also work with older people, with other age groups. Can you switch the slide? Thank you. And with other age groups, of course, we want to sensitize young people, but we want to connect the problems of climate change with other age groups too. An older person can understand more than a younger person. Of course, in the early age of the young person, they can understand what the problems are of climate change and what climate change is. But with the old person, we have like kind of help because we gave them the information that we tell him, and he passed it away to other people. And yeah, can you switch the slide? Thank you. As I already said, we want to sensitize young students, young people. And where to begin? We started simply at our school. We raised awareness among the school community. So we played a few climate illustrative games with the younger classes at our school. And there they're learning how much CO2 they emit. And by means of white, that's why it calls white model. But why do we things for trying? This I can answer very simply because we don't want to go people and wagging one's finger at others and say, you must do this right and that right and everything is okay in the world. We want to, by letting people try out and feel how much do they do wrong or how much CO2 they emit, the effect is massive. It's better than I'm going to a stage and I'm telling something from my experience. What we want is that they make the experience. And by trying out something, the person can put themselves in the position of what they're doing wrong or what they're doing right. And that's the point. Can you switch the slide? Yeah, here can you see the white model too, and you can go on. And with this strategy that I said, we can participate in events. The people want to know, want to try out something. They do not want a person who are telling him, okay, you must do this right, and the world is good, and everything is okay. So you can go on. So, but all the projects and all the technologies we have done, like technologies like our smart bench, where we recharge devices by solar energy, or our photovoltaic system. However, all this would not be possible without some help. I'm telling the truth. On the one hand, we have our school administration who supported us in every single project in our former major, but also our climate manager and employees of an environmentally friendly company. And they support us financially, and they are always available if we need help. And for that, I think we are very, very thankful. You can go on. So, yeah, with this picture, I wanted to tell you that we make interviews, but why I'm telling you we're making interviews, the thought behind that is I think that making interviews is much better than reading our website. Of course, we have a website and everything you can know about us, about our team, about our project and everything. But I think when you make interviews, the explanation of the members who gave the interview is more effectively. And yeah, that's what I want to say to you. The next slide. So now wanted to tell you something about the Reason project. This is our photovoltaic system. And yeah, we have 952 modules on our school roof. But what is fascinating about it? It's not fascinating that's on our school roof, no. It's fascinating because it produces green energy. And with this green energy, we can save a lot of CO2, I think 16 tons, and that's a lot. And that was the point. Here you can go on. So that was my little presentation. I hope you enjoy this. When you want to know more about us, our team, our project, or something else, you can go visit our website. The next slide, please. And yeah, I hope you enjoy my little presentation. And if you have any question, don't worry to ask me. Thank you.
Thank you, Ayman, for that incredible input. It's fascinating, your project and how you organize with POP Germany. What I found most interesting is how you talk about sensitizing other young people and other age groups in the topic of the climate crisis, and how you do this with games and with creative activities, and that people can join and have fun out of this. It's incredible. Thank you for teaching us about the POP family in Germany and how everything just connects to the SDGs and the importance of individual and collective action to solve the climate crisis.
Thank you, Camila.
So, thank you. No, thank you. We've seen the importance of networking and support of activism on different fronts, particularly now we talked about SDGs and community support. However, I now want to take you all to imagine your trip west to the Americas. During this journey to Mexico, I want you to imagine you gazing down at the beautiful and mysterious Atlantic Ocean. And as you gaze down at this ocean, now you understand that it is one of the most crucial and vulnerable front lines of the climate crisis. For this, to exemplify this and go further into this topic, with us we have Anna Hanhausen. She is an incredible youth POP ocean mentor. Since 2018, she has collaborated with Plastic Oceans Mexico, part of an international organization working to minimize plastic pollution in the ocean. In March of 2020, she began collaborating on the POP movement's POP Ocean Initiative. Anna was also recently awarded the Youth Medal of Merit by Mexico City's Congress for raising awareness on climate change and motivating the youth to take action. Anna, please, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Cami. Can you hear me? Just want to check because sometimes my audio is a little... Okay, thank you so much for that introduction. As Cami was saying, right now we're going to talk a bit about the ocean and how I got involved. I think Cami couldn't have explained it better. Looking down at the ocean, maybe it looks so big that it's really resilient, but there's so many things going on down there that we're sometimes unaware, that I think it's really important to raise our voices and talk about it. So first, I would like to talk about my climate story really quickly, because I think it'll give you an idea of how I came to be in these events. I've always felt very, very connected to nature. Ever since I was a little kid, my fondest memories are being in the ocean with my family, with my grandmother, and just spending the whole day at the beach. So I think that's something that stayed with me for my whole life. And whenever I found out about the effects of climate change on the ocean, I realized that I had to do something about it. I also started noticing the effects of climate change throughout my life. It was in different experiences. For example, I lived in Minnesota for a while and I experienced one of the coldest summers there. And at the time, I didn't really make a lot of it. But then looking back, I started realizing that that wasn't normal, that there was something happening. So as Camila was saying, in 2017, I started getting involved with environmental issues and started focusing my career as an advocate on the ocean. So if you could skip to the next slide, please. Perfect, thank you. So something I realized is that, oh, one back, please. Thank you. Something I realized is that many people don't get involved in ocean projects because they don't know exactly what's going on or why it is important. So I think it's really important to raise awareness of our connection to the ocean and how, even though if we live in cities far away from the coast, it's really important for us to know the connection we have. For example, the ocean produces over half of the oxygen we breathe. It's also an amazing carbon sink. If it wasn't because of the ocean, we'd have 30% more carbon in our atmosphere. And the planet would also be even warmer because the ocean absorbs 90% of the extra heat we've emitted. If you put this into perspective, it would be equivalent as if the ocean had absorbed one nuclear bomb of the size of Hiroshima every second for the last 150 years. So I think those kinds of facts really put into perspective what's happening in the ocean and why we need to be aware of it. I think many times people aren't aware of how this harms the ocean. For example, we have coral bleaching because of temperature rise. We also have ocean acidification because of the amount of carbon dioxide that is being absorbed by the ocean. And we're also facing a lot of loss of plankton because of all of these issues. And the damage is now evident, and it's time for us not to turn away. So once I learned about this issue, I started getting involved. And it was then when I realized that it was more than individual action that what was needed. I started doing some actions by myself at my house or maybe at my school, but then I realized that I had to take a step further and in order to gain better action. I think something important with this is that the youth need to raise their voice about their thoughts on what's happening. First, they need to learn about what's going on, and afterwards, they need to be the voice that the ocean lacks. So many people around the world don't see the issues the ocean is facing very often. So we need to be informed in order to correctly address these issues. So if we skip to the next slide, I would like to talk about the Pop Ocean Initiative. So as Cami was saying, it launched in March of 2020 during the Second World Sustainable Development Forum because of the need to increase ocean advocacy among the youth. We noticed that many youth were interested in the topic, but they wanted to do more. They wanted to raise their voices. And this is why we decided to start this new initiative to help them do it. Our objective is to amplify the voices of all of those who are worried about their future and the future of the ocean and help them channel this energy into positive action that comes with great change. So since March of 2020, we launched during a strange time because it was right when the pandemic was starting. So we've had 4 main events and they've all been online. So first we had a virtual summit which focused on the importance of the ocean, talking about the relationship between our health and the health of the ocean, and also the relationship between our economy and the health of the ocean. Afterwards, we had an event during Coastal Cleanup Day and a series of workshops to help young advocates become ocean advocates and create projects to conserve the oceans. And recently, just a couple of weeks ago, some of these projects were presented during the Pop Festival. So with these 4 events we've had, it's been a total of 28 sessions with a reach of over 70,000 advocates from over 60 countries in every continent. We've had 67 speakers who are experts on the oceans, and 12 of them have been dignitaries. If we could skip to the next slide, please. We have a couple of pictures from some of those events. As I said, all of them have been online, but we're looking forward to being able to do some in person once the pandemic is over. And I would like to focus now on the Pop Festival, which happened recently. So among all the projects, 20 of them were dedicated to the ocean. They were presenting during 8 different sessions, which focused on ocean conservation. And we had a total reach of about 3,900 people. This reach is expected to grow as all the videos are posted online and more people are watching them. And of these projects, of these 20 ocean projects, 5 of them were chosen as award winners. There were only 14 projects that were awarded in a category according to their impact, and 5 of them were ocean projects. So I think this really puts into perspective the amazing work Pop Ocean has been able to do during the last couple of months. Additionally, I would like to share with you that 2021 brings exciting things for Pop Ocean, especially the creation of a TV show for EarthX, where we aim to increase ocean literacy and as helping people know the first steps to getting involved in ocean advocacy. We're really excited about this because it's expected to reach hundreds of thousands. So before I finish, I would just like, if we could skip to the next slide, as a tip for everyone who's here, everyone who wants to get involved. And I think something really important when starting with your project is starting thinking why. Why am I concerned about this issue? How does this affecting me? Why should I care? So I think this is the first step you have to take in order to become an advocate for something you're passionate about. In my case, it was the ocean. I think many of you, if you saw these pictures in my presentation, you'll understand why I'm passionate about the ocean, because I'm happy to share that all of these pictures were taken by me in different coasts of Mexico. So it's amazing to see all these natural wonders that exist around us, and it's so sad to see what's happening to them. So before I finish, I would just like to add, if we could go to the next slide, some 3 key points that I think are the base of creating a global movement. Komal, if you could go to the next slide, please. That one. Thank you so much. So I think the first part is being empathic, because the first thing you need to do is understand the problem that is happening and understand how it's affecting the people in different communities to propose a solution that is effective and that is adequate to their needs. The second point, I think, is inclusion, which I think is something that's becoming more evident every single day, because we need to make sure that the solutions we propose benefit everyone, the most marginalized communities, those who don't have access to the internet, so they can't express how the issues are affecting them. So I think when we think of global movements and global solutions, we have to think of everyone. And finally, I would like to add that we need to de-learn and relearn. We need to leave behind some ideas as people telling us, you're too young to do this, or this is for adults. We need to leave behind this speech, and we need to de-learn everything that has been going on before to relearn new ways to act, manage our resources, and become advocates. I think on understanding the science behind what is happening and raising our voice to spread it far and wide is one of the most important things. So thank you so much, and I hope you enjoyed this presentation about Pop Ocean.
Thank you, Anna. Thank you for that amazing presentation, and congratulations on your incredible work on Pop Ocean and on the oceans in general. I really thought much about what you talked about, your experience in going on with small individual actions and how that has been translated into large-scale action, collective, both nationally and internationally, as you are working right now, as seen as the climate crisis is a global and universal crisis. What I found most interesting, and I thought much about my own experience when you were talking about yours, was how I myself started with really small actions, be it eating less meat or even changing the light bulbs in my house, trying to shower with less water. However, that moment where I decided to go large scale was a moment I took to the streets, when you realize that every grain of salt is valuable, but it only impacts when it's all collected together and it actually starts weighing in the decision-making process. So while every single action and every individual action is as valuable as and as critical as each and every one of us, we have to come together and unite behind the science, as you talked about the ocean and the importance of the ocean regarding the climate crisis. Unite behind the science and come together to find these solutions and weigh in the decision-making process. What I want to talk about now is how your activism and how you talked about your activism applied, as we saw in the World Oceans Day Summit, how that has become a pathway for you to express your ideas outside Mexico, even to a global stage. And what's relevant about this, and I talk from personal experience, is how impactful one personal opinions from others, and they allow us to deepen our knowledge and further our curiosity, just as I imagine you got from experts and other youth activists in this summit. To broaden our horizons and, most importantly, to open our eyes to completely different perspectives and interpretations. It would be quite contradictory if I only left you with my own perception of perceptions. So for this, I will now leave you with Drisha Pathak. She is an incredible youth mentor for POP and a passionate environmentalist with a view to bring a social and ecological impact through her work. She has presented several groundbreaking reports in the area of public health, including the UN-AIDS and APCASO youth consultation projects on SDGs. Her work is not limited to this sector. Drisha also looks at environmental sciences through a public health lens, and with some of her recent work on leaching of chemicals from plastic food contact materials into food. So Drisha, the floor is all yours. Please go ahead.
Thank you so much, Camilla, for that nice introduction. So I would like to request Komal to please share the screen. And thank you to all the attendees and my fellow presenters for joining us today. So talking about the topic, which is itself restoring environment and regenerative well-being, energy, ecology, and climate change. I think the POP Conclave will talk about all these areas, because POP Conclave is about different projects, different geographies, and networking, people coming together. So I would like to go back and give you a background that how we started with the POP Conclave, which is the project that I am supposed to present today. We started when everybody was at their homes, locked up in isolation or quarantined in their respective geographies in their countries and home. At that time when even schools were running online. So we started connecting with the people who were placed in different geographies and different continents. Of course, because of their time zones, because they were in different time zones. So we first started with interacting with just simple discussions and interaction with them in their with the people who were in different parts of the country within one single continent. Then we realized the need of that people are aware of what is happening in their continents, and they're more interested, if they are from southern hemisphere, they're more interested in knowing more about the northern hemisphere. Same goes for the people who were part of the north hemisphere. When we started thinking about that, how to bring them all together so that during this time they can work on, actually when they're not in the fields, what actually they can work on is on their projects. And what extra they can do is that they can network, which is very important, and to build a relationship together, to know more about what others are doing in their projects in different parts of the world and from different fields they belong to. Can we go to the next slide, please? Yeah, so this actually explains the reach and the way we started, how we picked up, and how we started growing the network, and how we conducted the two conclaves. So we started off with a global conclave, which included several continents, Africa, America, Latin America, Europe, and Asia. And it was a very closed group. We had some 30 participants who were supposed to be part of the discussions. And the structure was designed in a way that it is easy for them to come and interact, present their action plans, work on them, interact with the people who are from different geographies, become their buddies, network, get feedback, and incorporate and improvise their own action plans. If you haven't started yet, you were most welcome to be part of the conclave. The conclave is still running in the way that we are planning to increase our reach and reach more and more people to work on it. So till now we have done 2 conclaves. One was because of the language. We did a special conclave in Spanish where we had Spain, Latin America, and Mexico, and the global one, as I explained you earlier. So my fellow Komal is showing you the number of people who were part from different geographies and what were the different projects that they worked on. We can drop the link in the chat box and of this map so that you can easily see that, okay, so these were the people and they did these kind of projects. So what was so special about the conclave was that we know that we need to unite when we realized during the COVID pandemic that we need to unite more than ever. People were sitting at home. Most of us were clueless what to do, how to do. And a lot of people, they have very small and individual projects to start with. Not everybody is a leader or, known globally that, they will be invited or they can have their presence or they can show their footprints or they can communicate with people. So we started with putting together people in different groups, and we ended up having a very, very good and enriching discussion in those groups. Can we go to the slides? So now I'll give you some stats, first of all, before we shift into the overall structure of the conclave, which is very important to know that how we did that and what was so important about the conclave. So talking about some stats, we had some 52 participants in the conclave and each one of them presented their own projects. So you can estimate that we actually worked in just a span of 2 months on almost 52 projects, and that two together. Then we had participation of 15 countries from all over the globe. We conducted 22 discussions overall with these groups. So we planned a very small group, not more than 6 to 7 participants in each group, so that they can have maximum conversation. And we decided on the time of just 90 minutes to have multiple discussions. Then talking about as I told you about the inception, talking about what do we have in future in mind, like how we want to move on with the conclaves. We of course want to communicate with different communities. We want to overcome the language barrier and the resource barrier. How we can overcome the resource barriers? So as we just showed you the map, we had Ecuador, we had Venezuela, we had people from communities, indigenous communities, we had people, young people like Camila, Anna, and Aoife, all of them were part of the conclave. We had people who were lecturers in universities, we had people who were working in the field, who were actually involved with the COVID work. So they all brought their own experience. Can we go to the next slide? So talking about the strategic point of view of the conclave, we divided the entire conclave into 4 discussions, and each discussion had something to offer and to actually ask questions to yourself. If you already have an existing action plan, you can question yourself how to improve. If you have already implemented your action plan, you can have question how to upscale, how to get more funding. So these are the questions which the overall structure provided them through the discussions and these booklets which were provided to them before the discussion used to start. So every time we used to step into a discussion after a span of a week or so, they used to ask some questions from themselves and also from their fellow participants who were part of that group. Can you go to the next slide? So as I mentioned to you that we divided into 3 different discussions. The last discussion we had was about having buddies. So these are actually this is actually the platform that the POP has on the website for them, where we have combined their the parts of the discussion together of each and every participant, and we have uploaded them on our YouTube account, and then also gave them a platform on the POP movement where they can add their own, if they have any existing links to their work, they can add it, or so that in future they can directly to increase their reach and to give them more more exposure. This can work out in different ways. Can you do the next slide, please? Yeah, so these are the testimonies from some of the participants. As I mentioned you about the buddy system, you can see that one of the participants has clearly mentioned that I was so motivated to see that people in different parts of the world were actually working, and that made me feel that I need to wake up in the morning and be happy and start working on my own action plan. So the testimonies that I've picked up are usually defines the structure of the conclave, why it was so important. Can you go into the next slide, please? So this is how the conclave.
1 minute.
Yeah. Oh, shit. Thank you. So this is how we, after the conclave discussions were over, this is what we started achieving. So we developed different groups. You can see the names of the group in the slides. We developed 4 different groups where each one of them started interacting. So earlier, when they started, they were from different backgrounds, working on different projects. And when they were grouped together, they were actually working on a similar theme. Can we go on to the next slide? Yeah. So we just had a festival, which is known as the POP Festival, which is an annual flagship program every year, which happens every year. So they started working. So the conclave ended not ended, but closed for these 2 groups in the month of August. And we had a festival in the month of December. So over the period of these 2 months, these grouped together, they started working as a team. Not on their individual projects, but as a team, they started working on a project. And 2 of the sessions that they themselves conducted in the festival are one where we had His Excellency Lawrence Gonzi, and we had His Excellency
everyone, even if
where they actually did a survey with the community and the young people to know their knowledge on ecosystem and access them and get more strategies out of it. So it was a very enriching session where they got a chance to interact with them, present their work, and provide more and more strategies to the audience who were there. And the next one was about youth activism, where we had a group of young girls who actually put together this session and invited over young activists from all over the globe. And it was a very nice discussion where they talked about the ABC of climate activism, which is not limited to strikes. So I would suggest that if you have time, you can go and check that. I think that's it. And I think my time is also over. So thank you so much. If you have any questions, please drop them.
Even if
Thank you so much, Trisha, for this incredible presentation. I must say that the POP Conclave and the POP Festival that I had the honor of being a part of was one of the most enriching experiences that not only I, but other youth activists around the world found to be an incredible learning opportunity. You were talking about creative solutions and on a large scale, how the youth is able to come to these tables, come to these spaces and express their ideas, express out their opinions, and really become part of the solution. Now, on this international, more global perspective where the youth finds common ground in order to unite, like you said, now more than ever, we are to become leaders and spark change. I was extremely interested, particularly when you talked about the learning experiences and the opportunities that these events give the youth and also stakeholders to understand the other side, that it is us, the youth, and how we view the world. Now, talking about education and knowledge, our next and last speaker is an avid advocate for institutionalized change through youth activism, particularly when it comes to completely reimagining and reforming the education system. Our next speaker is Aoife from the United Kingdom. Most of her work is nationally concerned with education, from grassroots campaigning to lobbying politicians. In particular, as part of the youth-led Teach the Future campaign, Aoife is involved in working towards bringing out systemic change with the school system and the curriculum. Aoife, go ahead.
Thank you so much for that absolutely fantastic introduction. But yeah, I'm Aoife Marcellus. I use she, they pronouns, and I'm a 16-year-old activist. And as Camilla said, I am living in the UK. But right now, I'll just be talking a bit more about the Teach the Future campaign itself and the importance and the vital role of youth when it comes to both advocating and leading systemic change. So let me just share my screen. But yeah, hopefully everyone should be able to see that. But okay, let's get started. So a little brief background as to who we are. Essentially, this campaign was set up in October of 2019 by the UK Student Climate Network and Students Organising for Sustainability UK, and with the aim of calling on the government to rapidly repurpose the education system around the climate crisis and ecological emergency. And it's all to better prepare young people and students to mitigate and face the consequences of such a catastrophe. We ask that the teaching of sustainability and environment is liberated from its current subjects of geography and the sciences, and instead, have it be woven like a golden thread through every available subject, as we recognize that the climate crisis is indiscriminate and therefore it is no longer adequate for only a selection of students to be taught about it. So the campaign is based on these three main core asks that are universal essentially to the UK. With additional fourth asks in both Scotland and Wales. So the first is a review into how the education system is currently preparing students for the climate emergency and ecological crisis. The second is inclusion of the climate crisis in teacher training and the creation of a new professional teaching qualification. And the third is the enactment of an English Climate Emergency Education Act, a Scottish Climate and Biodiversity Emergency Education Act, and a Welsh Climate Emergency Education Act. And at some point, eventually, we'll have Northern Ireland as well. In Wales, the additional ask we have there is where we call for sustainable schools whereby all new and existing educational buildings are built or retrofitted to a carbon neutral standard, and for the adoption of sustainable practices across the educational sector. And then in Scotland, we also call for increased priority of the climate crisis in school inspections and educational institute rankings. So again, that was a bit background of who we are. But really, the message we're trying to convey here is that how in the UK, the education system means that climate change is very limited to specific subjects, those being geography and the three sciences. However, not everyone is scientifically inclined, and so it really cuts off people from being able to learn and be interested by the climate. So we need to take away those barriers, as climate change shouldn't be an optional topic. It should be a compulsory one. And this is because every young person must go through a contemporary schooling system, which will prepare them to go into green industries. And this teaching can come in the form of overt topics, such as discussing colonialism within history and how the climate crisis will disproportionately affect those living in most affected people in areas, MAPA, countries and regions. In food technology, for example, students can learn more about the consequences of the animal agriculture industry, or it could be more, on a subconscious scale, for example, in maths, when you learn about problem solving with real life examples and questions, such as how the climate crisis will start affecting us. And moving on to the really vital element of this is why is our campaign necessary? Why is climate education really important? Well, millions of students throughout the UK, and I can imagine from all over the world, in fact, have never had the climate crisis mentioned in their education. And if they have, it may have been siloed in one or two subjects. I mean, personally, for example, I learned about it in geography, and even then it was only the science. It was never really looking into the crisis that accompanies climate change. And to do so, I had to choose that subject to learn about that topic. And a bit of like research to back this up is which was commissioned by the UK Student Climate Network in conjunction with Oxfam and the National Union of Students, and they found that 4% of students in England, that is, they knew a lot about climate change, as well as this. In England, 68% of students wish to learn more about the environment in schools. However, 75% of teachers don't actually feel adequately trained to be able to teach their students about the climate emergency and ecological crisis. But it isn't just about how the climate crisis is taught, it's about how the teaching is delivered. So, well, I think really relating it and grounding it back to this theme of leadership, and youth leadership in particular, I would consider it to be an intrinsic part of Teach the Future. In 2019, when the Teach the Future England campaign launched, we held a parliamentary reception, which came with our own work and initiative to push forward our vital agenda for climate education. And then, so during the reception, we gained the support of many members of the House, as well as launching our Teach the Future bill, the first bill ever written in the UK, at least, by students. And it lays out how we want climate education to become an integral part of our curriculum. We also laid out the costings on how we want educational abilities to become net zero by 2030. In addition to our bill, we have gained the support of many politicians throughout the UK. And since then, well, I think a really key element to this is our strategy, where we take a lobbying approach to establish valuable contacts with politicians in positions of influence who can take real action regarding our asks for climate education, and who realize the potential of youth and the change needed within schools. Now, if my presentation will work, there we go. Well, a couple of months after the English campaign had established, we launched the Teach the Future Scotland campaign. And this was sort of very monumental, and it came with the banner drop in front of the Scottish Parliament, really therefore bringing the campaign into fruition. And I don't know if you can see there, but that is me to the left holding the banner. And well, since then, we have successfully gained the support of many high-level officials within Scotland, namely John Swinney, who's both the Deputy First Minister of Scotland, as well as the Cabinet Secretary for Education and Skills. In addition to this, we've had a growing number of supporting organisations. And I mean, it goes without saying, the absolutely wonderful Pop Network, who is part of that, and who provides such wonderful contributions through their support. Like, I honestly cannot thank you enough. Now moving a bit more onto, oh, sorry, my presentation is being a bit funny. Onto this part of the presentation, sorry. Anyways, my slides were acting up, apologies. Anyways, so essentially, we're always looking for more people to get involved to strengthen our movement. And I really do find it so brilliant to have this opportunity to connect with you all. And well, that right there is the UK and Ireland highlighted. And I, within this campaign, take the role of international support coordinator, where really it's about not necessarily imposing, these ideas of creating campaigns, but really providing that backbone, that support for others. In fact, around the world, we have various different Teach the Future campaigns, including the Netherlands, Latvia, Zambia, and even Nigeria, who have honestly had such amazing starts. And I think it's really about growing those networks, and that in itself is such a vital element to what we do. And ending off there, I just want to say thank you so much to all of you for your absolutely fantastic and wonderful support. And if you want to ever find out a little bit more about what we do and who we are, please do check out our social medias. I've put our website, Instagram, and Twitter there. So yeah, I will stop sharing my screen. But yeah, that is all. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Aoife, for that incredible insight on Teach the Future and all the work you've been doing regarding the education system, lobbying politicians, taking stakeholders to understand the importance of reforming and completely redesigning what education should look like for today and for future generations, because this issue of the climate crisis and the ecological catastrophes must be taken down from the root up. And one of the main issues here is education and the lack of proper information regarding the climate crisis in basic education. So I would like to maybe remember you all, or perhaps make you remember of your times when you were at school. That back when you were in elementary, in middle school, right before you went to high school, you were about 10, maybe 12, 15 years old. And I, for example, I do remember when I studied the climate change, wrongly said, but climate change and the biological, chemical implications and physical implications of the climate crisis. And now today, as I've grown into myself and learned much more about the consequences, the causes and consequences of the climate crisis, I realize that that information has led me to believe for many years that the climate crisis was not such an imminent issue. And I am quite sure that I am not the only one. So now we understand the importance of education in our daily lives, and how from now on we are striving, and activists such as Aoife are striving for education to be made a priority in political agendas for the climate movement. Now, I am afraid that our session has almost come to an end. However, for all panelists, I would like to ask you a couple of questions before us to conclude this session. If anyone has any questions directed to a particular panelist, or be to a general question that you would like to ask the youth present today, we would love to answer it. So please write it down in the Q&A section. So panelists, I have a question for you, and I hope that you all can answer to me in about 1 or 2 minutes. Why have we, as young people, taken the initiative to demand change at the institutional level? And what role do students and youth have in terms of systemic change and leadership? Now, please, I will start in order as we presented. So Ayman, if you'd like, please go ahead.
Camila, can you repeat the question? I don't hear that. Thank you.
Absolutely. Yeah, no problem. So why are we, as young people, decided to take initiative and demand change at an institutional level? And what is our role as students, as youth, in terms of systemic change and leadership?
Thank you. Okay. Yeah, I was going to the pop movement because I saw how much, for example, CO2 we emit, and that was really, really bad. And I thought, okay, I must do something. And that's why we young people, or I, was going to the pub or do something like an initiative. And I think it's good that young people came up and say, okay, I must do something. And I think we play a big role in the society, because young people live in the world and they can see how much how much false we are doing. And yeah, that's why I was going to the pub, or I was making an initiative, and yeah.
Fantastic, thank you. Thank you so much for that beautiful answer. I will now go to Anna, please.
Thank you, Cami. That's a great question. And to answer it really briefly, I think the main reason why we, the youth, are leading initiatives to demand change is because we are aware of the effects of environmental degradation, and because they will affect us the worst. Because all the projections are when we will be older. For example, you see this so many years away, for example, with sea level rise in 2100, and it's so this means when my children, if I have children, are 40, they won't be able to visit Cancun, for example, you know? So we put into perspective what this will mean when we're older and how different our quality of life will be to those who are older right now. So I think it's because we are aware of this, and also because we know it's in our rights to have a safe and sustainable future.
Absolutely, you couldn't be more right. And as I'm bringing back the topic of science with you, since you very explicitly talked to us about the science behind the importance of oceans, and it is quite pressing, the issue, whenever you read the IPCC report or any article regarding the climate crisis and this new timer that has been set upon us, how by 2030, by 2050, which used to seem so long before us, is now right around the corner. And that is why this issue is not only just pressing, but it's critical for the survival of not only our species and our planet, but for all the flora and fauna found on this planet. Thank you, Anna, for that beautiful insight. Drisha, I'll go in with you.
I think after having interaction with the participants who were part of the conclave, also of the festival, who are part of the POP network, I think we have got this. We had this conversation multiple times, and it is like it's very important to demand change at the institutional level. Say, for instance, I'll talk about the survey that was done by one of the conclave groups on ecosystem. So their target audience was young people as well as community. So one basic question was of the survey was, what do you understand by ecosystem, and whether you have studied, it in your curriculum. So the responses that we got were quite mixed, and some of the responses were having the direct, if you type word ecosystem meaning on Google, that definition that comes directly. So, and most of them mentioned that no, I mean, it was not part of it's not part of our education system to go into so deep and be clear about each and every term. So I think it's very important at the educational as well as the internet as well as the institutional level to first impart that knowledge, and because with the help of knowledge only you will be able to create that, you will be able to sensitize the young generation to move in the right direction. So more than anything, each one of us working as an individual, as a group, as a team, as a network, diminishing these boundaries is very important. And if you have a person who can, who you look up to, or who is your idol, who is working in that direction, also you have knowledge, like your base is very strong, you get to be part of it and do it in a way that you are not just thinking about it, but you are able to actually implement it with visible results also. So I think it's very important, and the leadership is of course very important, but it has to come from somewhere. So I think what is better than having young people, because I think we have a strength to imagine a future which is amazing, which is which is positive. So I think you guys and all the young people, they play a major role, and you guys will definitely bring that change. Thank you.
Thank you, Drisha. You are absolutely right. We really couldn't do much without this connection, this network, and this very special link that we have between youth and this potential that we have inside of us, not only being young and having all of our whole lives ahead of us, but also I would like to bring in social media and how this decade now we are considered the internet natives, and how for us the world is so globalized that it seems even normal and natural for us to connect with people from all across the planet that in years prior wouldn't even have been imagined for us to live like this. Thank you, Trisha. Now I will go with Aoife. I will ask you to perhaps do your answer a bit brief. We have a couple of questions in the chat, and I would love to get to them. So thank you.
Absolutely, absolutely. I'll keep it really briefly, but I think truly, like, we just cannot understate the importance of youth leadership and initiative. And I think from like a personal experience as well, when it comes to campaigning, like, we are the young people who are paving the way for institutional change. Like, we are advocating for climate education to be embedded throughout our curriculum. And you know, it's the same curriculum that guides us in our learning and in turn our futures, as you said, really right there. So I mean, as we already know, the climate crisis won't only affect our generation and generations to come. It's impacting and threatening people's lives now. And I mean, every single individual must have the right and access to education, must be able to feel empowered and have that knowledge provided for them to step up and take action and demand action from world leaders, from people in decision-making positions. So yeah, I do see vitality when it comes to that.
Absolutely, absolutely. Aoife, you couldn't have said it any better. So we have a couple of questions in chat. I will again ask you to briefly answer to this question so that we can wrap up in time. So now our question is from Andreas. It's for all members. Do you, as young members of the society, feel taken serious by the decision makers in politics? It doesn't matter if a local or state political level, as far as your sustainable action is concerned. So Ayman, the question, in case you want to read it, it's in the Q&A, please go ahead.
Thank you. I'm saying the truth when I'm saying it's different. Some political states are serious and say, okay, they saying the truth, what they are, what about climate action and climate change, and we should do something. But there are political states, they are doing nothing, and it's different from, in my opinion, it's different, and yeah.
Thank you, Ayman. Anna, please go ahead.
Thank you. And I think this is such a complex question because, as Iman was saying, it really depends on the person. But I would like to focus especially on the Medal of Merit from the government. So this would, on one side, it would tell you that the government cares and that the government listens, but sometimes they don't act according to that, right? So I think the problem sometimes is that there are people who don't listen at all, people who listen, and people who just pretend to listen in order to be in the good side, you know? So I think something really important is to distinguish this and distinguish that there are people who listen and be able to reach those who don't in order to make them listen as well.
Thank you, Anna. That is great, and actually reminds me of a saying that we have here in Mexico, or perhaps in Latin America. I use it a lot when I go to Uruguay, which is to have a cold eye. I don't know if that's the right translation, but to really have that discerning capability of knowing who is going to listen to you and who is really not. And in a way, I'm talking here from personal experience, is sometimes you have to risk not being heard in order to be heard. Because once you realize and understand who these people are that really won't listen to you, and you are able to understand why they're not listening to you, as Anna said at the beginning, you have to understand the why, then you will start to understand and start to apply this knowledge to who will listen to you, and you will know exactly who to look for when you want to be listened. Trisha, now continue, please. Your turn.
Yeah, thank you, Camila. I think, yeah, as Iman and Anna mentioned, it depends on, different countries, whether they're, and also the politicians. If we talk about New Zealand, we see that, they have created a new policy and a new target to achieve what they want to achieve in terms of climate solutions. But talking about the young people, I would like to say that, so some young, I mean, not some, but a lot of young people out there in different parts of the world, they are doing amazing work. They are raising their voice, they are doing their homework, with themselves, which is to gain more and more knowledge. They are trying to reach out to these networks, be part of them, be part of the panelists like you all are today, and there are organizations also that are supporting them. So I think we have started, but slowly other countries will also pick up. But it again depends on the nation. But what we need to learn is that you can't lose hope. Even if you started from, at a very small scale, and you have started, you will reach somewhere. You will be an inch closer to the final destination. So just thinking about that, you will not be heard, will not create a difference. You need to step forward, whether the politicians are listening or not. You can create a change in your community first, your surroundings, and then everybody will have to listen to you. So I'm thankful to all those who are actually out there doing everything, to all the organizations who are actually taking them seriously. But I would also like to take advantage of this platform to if at all any of those leaders are going to listen to this, that please listen to the young people who are shouting on the streets, also providing you solutions and new interventions. They are working hard because they care about the future, so should you. Thank you.
Thank you, Trisha. Thank you. I couldn't have said it any better. Aoife, please go ahead.
I mean, it's an interesting question, that's for sure, because at least personally, like on a local level with politicians within my own nation, it's a really tricky one, because I mean, with some politicians, you're able to like reach out to, well, we have MPs, so members of parliament, where they're meant to represent your constituency. And so in that sense, I'm able to create like a really strong relationship and like friendship with my local MP, at least, which is brilliant. Who's it's almost as if I'm preaching to the choir when I speak to her, because she really is brilliant and she really does take the lead on it, and she really does prioritize that. But then I've been in other situations with other politicians where it's very much, you almost have to really keep pushing, because they're the kind of politicians that, out of politeness, they'll listen, out of politeness, they'll, sort of, again, one of those kind of pretenders almost. But there's still this element of just a barrier, it's a barrier between you and this other individual, and it comes up a lot, and often that, that affects how people interpret what you're doing, and it does make lobbying politicians a whole lot harder. And I think you actually see a difference, because I mean, I used to live in Scotland and now I live in England, but I grew up in Scotland, and it's a lot easier to lobby some certain politicians from certain nations. I think that's also been established already, but yeah, again, it's an interesting question, but there are both positives and negatives to campaigning and to lobbying.
Absolutely. Thank you, Aoife. Thank you for that insight. Girls, we have a lot of questions. So please, if you can keep your answers under 20 or 30 seconds, that would be fantastic. So first of all, another question from Kevin. Kevin is an amazing activist as well, if you want to follow him as well. So what are climate activists missing in order to succeed in the goal of literally save the world? Are we winning, or is time beating us? Go, Ayman, please.
Yeah, thank you for this question. I think the question is very interesting. I think, in my opinion, sometimes the support of the people we want to reach is missing, or generally the political is missing, and that is what I miss. So.
Thank you, Ayman. Anna, please go ahead.
Thank you, Cami. Well, in one word, if succeeding versus not succeeding, I think we are succeeding, maybe slower than ideally, but I think we are doing, the youth across the world is doing amazing changes. And I think the only thing that is missing is stronger connections between projects. There are amazing things being done across the world, but bringing them together will amplify their impact.
Absolutely, absolutely. You couldn't be more right. And if you, everyone watching, if you want to go look further into these projects, for example, some examples of these projects that Anna has already mentioned, you could go into our POP conclaves and realize what all of these global projects and ideas that we are incorporating and creating this humongous project with all of them together. So that with that note done, Trisha, please go ahead.
I think what is missing is the motivation that should come from the family members. If your kid, if the young people are out, you need to help them, you need to guide them, don't stop them, and help them to get more and more knowledge. That's all.
Thank you, Trisha. You're right, absolutely right. Support from our inner and outer circle as well. Thank you. Eva, please.
Well, I think a huge element is actually just action. That's really what's missing, not on our behalf, but rather the behalf of those that when they take forward actions, when they're able actually to make decisions that are going to impact our lives in a positive manner, there's not enough of that being done. Again, it links back to the institutional level change that we really need to see. But I will say, with all that's happening and with the work that I see so many people doing, without a doubt, we are winning and succeeding more than losing, that's for sure.
Thank you, Eva. Amazing. This is actually quite an interesting question, and then we will go to our last question before our panel ends. So, has the pandemic been to your advantage as activists? In other words, how and if has the online world helped spread your ideas and concerns? Iron, please take it away.
I think not my idea speed. What was an advantage for me was that I met a lot of people all over the world, and just across the world, that was a very huge opportunity. And yeah, I think that was an advantage for seeing how much work the people are doing and how great they work. I think, yeah, that was my advantage.
Thank you. Anna, please.
Thank you, Cami. Well, I think we've learned to adapt to this situation and we've made the most of it. I've met amazing people who I don't know in person. So here we have Aoife, we have Iman, who I didn't know before. And thanks to this pandemic, I've had the chance to know them. But I think the only disadvantage that we've had is that we can't work in person on some projects that need to be done in person. And we also can't reach some marginalized communities who don't have access to the internet.
Completely right. Talking about from a point of privilege, and I know you've had the connection with several marginalized communities, indigenous communities, at least here in Latin America. I've had some contact with them, and one of the main issues is during this pandemic has been communicating with a global network through the internet, as seen as there are quite a lot of limitations in that aspect. Thank you, Anna, for pointing that out. Trisha, please.
Thank you, Camila. I think, yes, of course, it has helped people who were already, want to do something about it. They somehow figured out that how to network, how to do the work. But there were other communities and people who were not having resources. So I think for them, they can't go out in the field to do what they were doing. And also, there was a barrier in terms of reaching out through the technology. So that was one thing that I feel was there. But yes, we networked and we gained a lot of knowledge. So and we understood that how everybody is functioning. So it motivated us also, and it gave us a different direction altogether. So yeah.
Thank you, Trisha. Eva, please.
Thank you, Camila. And see, the thing is, I think the pandemic in itself and the consequences and the impact it's had, I think very little positive has really come from that. But what did come from that was time. And I think it was that what provided us the opportunity to reach out and create these connections and networks and meet such fantastic people, which in that sense really did change my outlook and perspective on things. And I feel I, as a person within that time, although I mean, at least in terms of mental health, it's been fluctuating, varying, but what it did give me was that time again to really think it through and also just develop as an individual, as an activist, and to again connect globally, internationally with certain people, which is genuinely been so impactful. But also we can't negate the fact that the COP, for example, COP26, which was meant to be held this year, has been postponed. And again, it's this idea of how the climate crisis isn't going anywhere. And we need these events. We need our politicians. We need our decision makers to really be in those positions and actually, implementing and putting forward things that will reverse this, that will, be able to challenge the crisis.
Thank you all for these incredible answers for all these questions. Now, we won't have time for many more questions. However, I would like to make one last round with only one sentence. I would like you to please just state what has been the most difficult problem or the most difficult barrier that you've had to face as an activist. And in one short sentence, again, I will be counting words, would you now, with your experience, how would you go over that barrier now? One sentence, please. Thank you.
Okay. I just what was a barrier for me, I just think that I knew that I had to talk to people, and I knew that I had to motivate the people somehow, and I think that was a big barrier for me. I think that was a sentence.
Perfect, thank you. And how would you answer that? How would you tell people to talk to politicians, talk to stakeholders? I mean, I'm not sure if you listen to me. Perhaps we lost your connection. If not, I'm going to go with Anna. Anna, please.
Thank you. So I'll use one sentence for each. So I think the main challenge is fighting against people who stay in ignorance willingly and they're not willing to learn. And in order to solve this, I would just like to point out Pop's sentence, I don't know how you would call that, but youth inspired by knowledge, right? So learning about what's happening and being inspired to act because of this.
Thank you, Anna. Drisha, I will go now with you.
Yeah, so I think the biggest barrier was to capture one's attention and motivate them to catalyze their own work, and building that trust so that they can, co-work together and think about each other. So I think that was the biggest barrier, and I think we pretty much worked on this skill individually, and we have achieved a lot because now we know so many people who are part of the network, and we are interacting with them on a daily basis and getting motivated. Thank you.
Thank you, Trisha. Thank you so much. Aoife, last intervention, please.
I'll try to keep it short. But I think, again, I'm going to say it again, mental health. I think that in itself, I think is a personal thing, and it always goes back to the climate crisis, in terms of eco-anxiety, stuff like that. And I think it's very much a barrier, and to some extent, it's not something that you will essentially overcome because it's with you, it's constant, and it changes day to day, and it's a really difficult and deep topic. However, I will say that when it comes to just speaking with people and actually creating those networks and just a fun conversation, and it's that work that goes behind the scenes in terms of your relations with others that really matter, and that's what pushes forward this change. That's what pushes forward my own motivation, especially, I think. But yeah, thank you.
No, thank you, and all of your inputs are incredibly valuable. I really hope that all of our listeners today, attendees, and even panelists got to take out something for something out of this session. I truly do hope that this session was valuable to you and to your network of activists, that you can start building that confidence to continue spreading the importance of the climate crisis, as well as spreading the network, connecting with people, learning about other perspectives, and knowing how to do that properly. Kamal now will leave again all of our social media handles, both all of these incredible panelists as well as mine, in case that you want to follow their incredible work. And in case you have any particular questions for them, they will more than gladly answer all of your queries. So thank you so much for joining this session. It was an honor being your moderator today. And thank you to all of the speakers for being present today. Thank you for being leaders and transformational leaders of the 21st century. Thank you all for coming. It was incredible. This session was such an incredible session. Thank you so much. Please keep us posted and please message us. We would love to be in contact with all of you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. It was a wonderful session. Actually, I have posted an upcoming session in the chat window. If you want to join the session, please use these links. Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you so much. Thank you very much for having us. Great session, guys. Thank you.
I will end this session.